Hi, Imre. Welcome to Venture Vibe.
Hi there. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have you with us today. We are really excited to hear your perspective on Hungary's startup ecosystem and your experience in the region.
Sure. I'm happy to share.
Thank you. Great. Now, can you tell us a little about yourself and how you get into the startup ecosystem?
All right. I went in an untraditional way in my career. Obviously, it's dating back to the 90s. I left Hungary in 93. I went to study at university in the US. Then I went to work on Wall Street, where I learned a lot of the sort of high finance, structural dealing. So when I came back in 2003, I started to work in securitization, and then I established my own company. It was called Hild Life Annuity. Then after that, OTP Life Annuity, which was in cooperation with one of the largest banks here in Central Eastern Europe, and that went all the way until 2008. It was a pretty big venture at the time. It was in excess of 150 million euros in market value when the financial crisis came in 2008. And actually, since then, since early 2009, I do nothing but work with startups, and especially online and internet-related startups. I established accelerators. I worked with VCs. I was pretty much anything and everything in the startup ecosystem, from founding companies to advising operations and on helping them exit. And in the meantime, there were many different aspects in which I was involved in the ecosystem. I worked with government agencies. I worked with international large agencies. One kind of worth mentioning is the one that I did with EIT. I established the EIT landing ground in Israel, in Tel Aviv, where we went to learn how effective ecosystems work. And that was pretty much, I think, the biggest exposure I had to a well-functioning ecosystem, and how our European experience and European experiments were going. And that went all the way until the COVID. And since then, I work largely with ecosystems. And since 2023, I'm heading up the company that I'm representing here, Óbuda Uni Venture Capital, which is the first and only university-related venture capital fund here in Hungary. We are investing 10 billion forints, which is about 28 million euros. And we invest in technologies, typically deep tech, AI, you name it. So far we have 14 companies, and the plan is to have many, many more. And so in the process, as you also hinted at, I have a pretty big exposure to the Hungarian ecosystem and also regionally. So I show up in Slovakia, Romania, Serbia every now and then, so I have kind of feedback from there too. And I have the ability to compare, how things are going there versus here.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Thank you. You worked in several countries. What are the biggest things you learned from working across different ecosystems?
I think that the number one is, I think it's stereotypical that size matters. Basically, a small country simply can't think big enough, and that's why it was a kind of a pleasure to me to take some Hungarian entrepreneurs overseas. At one time, in the last 15 years, I took two tours for months to the US, and it was really great to see how these young entrepreneurs kind of blossomed in literally in 30 days. They changed their perspective. They changed their understanding of what a market is and what a product development should be. So that's one that, small market it's very difficult to think big. It's easy to say, very, very difficult to do. The other thing is that countries like Hungary and countries like of this size and of this relevance, it doesn't matter that the market is small, as long as, especially in the last 5 years, as long as there is enough talent. Talent should be technical and entrepreneurial. And in Hungary, typically we have technical talent, plenty, but not many entrepreneurs, especially of the kind who can actually access global markets. So, there's this old adage saying that the talent is everywhere, but opportunities are not. And so they actually have to migrate to where opportunities are. And this is one of the biggest challenges for ecosystems, to create enough opportunity that attracts entrepreneurs. I think that's one of the fundamental keys.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you. What makes Hungary's startup and VC ecosystem unique today?
I think we have, Hungarians have this kind of a saying that in a revolving door, when we walk in behind someone, we come out ahead. That's kind of the resourcefulness of Hungarians that we have. We have very traditionally and historically, we had little resources, and we still have to make good use of it. And that's still true. So technically, a lot of very creative and very resourceful people are here who actually either kind of do their own projects, or they start to work with some international companies or international development companies where they sell their talent. And I think that one of the biggest challenges for our ecosystem and many other smaller ecosystems is how to actually make bigger use of their talent without necessarily leaving that particular home country. And these days, especially because of the leveraging effect of the internet and of the online businesses, and obviously with AI, it's getting more and more easier and easier to basically play on an even play field with many other competitors. And I think that what we should do is focus more on application of technologies instead of developing technologies, because that's too expensive. But Hungarians are really good at kind of taking advantage of existing systems and creating companies out of that. The Hungarian ecosystem for the last 15, 16 years was, I think, very much characterized by government funding, very strong public funding. There were multiple rounds of attempts to kind of create a strong early stage entrepreneurial ecosystem with more or less success, depending on the various stages and various periods. But by and large, the benefit of that public funding effort was that being an entrepreneur became a kind of a household expression. So it was, for a long time, the very kind of stormy political change in the early 90s. The word entrepreneur wasn't necessarily a very prestigious expression. And these days, because of the acceptance of many of the new technologies by the general population, it becomes more and more a real opportunity for students. So when we started 15 years ago, when we started to talk about entrepreneurship at universities, it was difficult to find students who were interested in that. Now we have literally hundreds who are enrolling in various courses, and the government, the public funding sources also found ways to involve students. So, for example, I think it's one of the characteristic Hungarian innovation is the Hungarian Startup University program, where the central public funding source is actually encouraging students to start their own ventures within a university, or even just the mock-up ventures, but to start these initiatives. And I think that the last time they counted, there were more than 3,000 such, new ventures. Actually, sometimes it's just an experiment when students are actually kind of toying with the idea what would it be to create some businesses. But I think it actually planted the seeds of the ideas in their heads that this is something doable. They don't have to become an employee for a large multinational, which is typically, I would say, not necessarily a very, very fruitful career in the long run. Obviously, in the early years, it's very useful to learn the ropes there. But in the very long run, I think entrepreneurship offers a lot more opportunities.
Thank you. You mentioned a bit also cultural sides for Hungarian ecosystem.
Yeah.
But how would you describe the founder culture in Hungary? How does it shape innovation?
The founding culture had a long way to go. For a long time, it was the word founder sounded like, in a funny way, like those people who actually took the land here in the Carpathian Basin. They were the founders. So what do two university students have to do with that? What are they founding? So it was there was no habit of this. People were working for large companies, or they were working in the fields, but they were not just creating something, a company, and then raising funds, and then creating international businesses. That was just unheard of. So the funding culture now I think is well established. There are many founders who can already share information with the earlier generations. 15 years went by, so there are like some of the founders are like second or third time around founders. So they share many of these informations, sometimes physically, I mean in a physical location, but obviously very often online and in some other chat rooms or any other forms. So I think that the progress development of such an entrepreneurial ecosystem has started, but on the weak side is that there are so many people coming in over the last 15 years that it's very difficult to establish a culture when the population is constantly moving. So there's, those people who are in, the new guys come in and they look around and they think that they can learn from those people, and they don't know that those people who are in the community now, they were outside 3 months earlier. So there was, for a long time, I sensed that there's not enough time to establish the culture. It felt like every year we had to explain the same thing because there were always new people coming in. But by now, I think that that especially the younger those generations who already started some businesses, got funded, and then became more or less successful, or at least they had some scars. Now they can actually share those informations with the younger generation. So I think it's going slower than it should be. I wish it was a faster process, but it's going on. It's going on very well. Obviously, the Hungarian ecosystem is very much concentrated in Budapest. The two others that are, I think, is definitely worth mentioning is Debrecen, which is a city in the countryside, and Győr, that are showing really great progress. But overall, what we are lacking is international connectedness. And that's why I think that what you guys are doing with Venture Vibe is a great thing to actually creating, global aspects and global change of ideas, because that's what's necessary for Hungarian and other regional entrepreneurs to understand where the world is going.
Thank you so much, Imre. Thank you. Speaking of international founders, do you think Hungary is a good place for founders to start or grow a company to start, actually?
I think that to start a company, not in the bureaucratic sense, but in the actual sense, to sit down and find cooperating partners, co-founders, I think it's a great place to find talent. Budapest is actually rated number 2 in the world. It's a fun destination for especially Gen Z and young people. It's probably one of the hidden gems that a lot of people don't realize how good it is here. Economically, it's a very inexpensive place compared to some other locations like London or Paris or Berlin. However, on the flip side, very few corporates have their headquarters here. I would say probably, we have 3 traditional large ones, and then maybe 3 others that are worth mentioning. But so we don't have that kind of a corporate presence here. That has to be found somewhere else. Startups have to be resourceful about that. So if they're thinking about putting their R&D, internal R&D, or simply just a development office here, that's a good idea. So front office or business shouldn't necessarily be here unless the business allows it. That if it's a virtual business, then obviously it can be done. Another interesting thing is that that is rare, in my opinion, Central Eastern Europe, that because of the location and the history of Hungary, there are many Hungarians who speak multiple languages from around the country. So it's easy to find, Hungarians who speak Slovak or Romanian or Ukrainian or Croatian. So in that sense, it's an ideal location for that kind of a geographical coverage. So when it comes to business, I wouldn't say that this is the best place to start. But when it comes to development and building the product, it's probably one of the best kept secrets in this economy.
Thank you. That's an important point. And my last question, what advice would you give to founders who wants to come to Hungary and join the ecosystem? Just one advice.
Yeah, I think that they should come to talk to some of the leading organizations in the space. There are probably 5 to 10 such organizations, and through talking to them, they can actually map out the entire ecosystem. Where we have the strongest talent is algorithmic knowledge, which is very important in AI. Obviously, there's a lot of AI competence in Hungary that is not very well visible from the outside. Also, online video and anything that has to do with video-related knowledge, that's also very, very strong here traditionally, here in Hungary. So if they need technical founders or technical support, this is definitely a very good place for that. And they can map out the entire ecosystem for through personal interactions in about a month, because it's relatively still small.
Yeah. Imre, thank you so much for joining us. This was
Sure
really
thing.
insightful.
Happy to share.
Thank you. It was a really pleasure having you on Venture Vibe. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again.
Me too. You're welcome. Bye now.
Thank you, Imre.
Bye.
Bye-bye.